Hey there, welcome on back. As always, I'm Carl with Darkest Attitude. It's Wednesday, means Bug Out 101. What are we looking at today? As you can guess from the background, knives. So yes, we're talking about knives today. Something a lot of people are actually surprised I haven't talked about before, since after all, that's what I built this channel around, what I'm building my business around. But before we get too far into that, let's get the syllabus work taken care of, shall we? For those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. As you've probably figured out from what I just said, I primarily do knife reviews, but I also review camping gear, survival gear, and here on Wednesdays I do a line of videos helping you put together your own emergency kit in case something comes up and you've got to get the hell out of Dodge. Say a hurricane, which happened to me 4 times when I was living in Charleston. Wildfires like they have out in California all the time. What happened up in North Carolina and Tennessee just a couple years ago. Definitely don't want to be stuck around for that. For those of you who have been coming back, welcome back. And yes, it's time for that question again. Have you subscribed yet? Yes, I know, and I'm still asking. I'm going to keep on asking. Because let's face it, it's an easy thing to do. Just hit that button right down there. It says subscribe. Then you hit the bell next to it so you get notified every time I put up a new video. As I said before, it's a win-win situation. You win because you get notified whenever I put up a video, so you get to see all the neat new videos I do. I win because, let's be honest, the more subscribers I have, the easier it is to do all these neat new videos. So let's go on. Help us each other out, shall we? But on to class for today. Okay, so we've got most of the basics out of the way. We've got water, we've got food, we've got clothing, we've got shelter, we've got fire, we've got lights. But we haven't touched on probably the handiest tool around. It's not that big a deal anymore in modern day America or in most of Europe for that matter. Things have gotten so civilized and so urban that a knife really isn't a necessity anymore like it was back when. And most of us, if we do carry knives, which I gotta admit I always do, are going to go ahead and settle for something more along the lines of this nice little pocket knife. This one is a Damascus version of the Civivi Atkisis, and I did do a video on this if you want to look it up. Actually, I didn't do it on the Damascus version that I'm carrying, but it's still a nice video, and this is a gorgeous knife. But when you're out in the field and something happens and you have to go off into the wilderness, so to speak, which for some of you is anything outside of a city, you're going to need something to do various things. You might need to cut some cordage, paracord for instance, so you can put up some sort of shelter. You might need to trim some wood to make tent stakes or help build the shelter. You might need to cut up some wood to help build your fire. You may need to clear some underbrush so you can get through an area. There's 101 different uses for a knife out in the field. So you really need something. But what do you need? What do you want? Well, personally, I know there are some out there that will recommend some really nice folding knives. And I gotta admit, there are some like the old-timer folding hunter, the Buck 110, the new Hunter Prolox from Victorinox. These are excellent knives, tough to boot. But any folding knife is going to have a weakness at the pivot. And if you start abusing your knife too heavily, that pivot is going to fail on you. And then all of a sudden you don't have a knife anymore. With a fixed blade knife or sheath knife, you don't have to worry about that so much. One of my favorite hunting and camping knives is this one, Lucky 7. Don't make this anymore, but it's got a full tang all the way through. The handle is leather stack. It's got a nice guard on it. Good heavy blade. So if you're prying on something or chopping on something, it's not likely to break on you. It's got a long enough blade that it actually can be used for chopping if you need to, or bollighting wood. Bollighting just means splitting wood in half. But it's not so long it's going to get in your way when it's hanging on your belt. One of my other favorites for camping and the like is Droz Torok from K-Bar. It's got a good heavy molded injection sheath. It fits on your belt comfortably. It's not that heavy. Again, it's got a good thick full tang on it. The blade is good quality 1095 cryo, which means it's a hard carbon steel. It's going to take an edge, hold an edge. It's coated so you don't have to worry about it resting on you if you look at it cross-eyed. It's just a really, really nice knife. This is also $125. If you are a serious camper or anything along those lines, you've probably got some of your own favorite knives. By the way, you notice this thing will not come out no matter what. And it may be like this K-Bar. It might be an SE. It might be a Tops. There's a whole bunch of different high-end knives out there. But this video is aimed more at the low end. I've got no camping experience whatsoever type person. So you don't really want to spend $125 or more on a knife, probably. And you don't have to. There's plenty of nice ones out there. This one from Elk Ridge. Nylon sheath, which means it's not going to get wet and stay wet. Blade isn't quite as thick, but it's still thick enough. Nice big blade. Again, handy for chopping, handy for shaving wood to get yourself some tinder for starting fires. It'll do well for sharpening and shaping wood if you're going to try benchcraft. Or, yeah, I can talk. If you're going to try to make stuff, bushcrafting. It's got a nice handle, so it's a pretty knife, which that doesn't really mean that much when you're talking about survival. You just want a good heavy knife. And this thing can be had for maybe $15. 20 at the Amazon and the like, no problem. You can go for something a little bit more expensive. This is a Schrade Frontier 36. Again, 1095 high carbon steel. Heavy blade. This thing is, you can break it, but it's going to take some work to break that thing. Very comfortable fiberine glass nylon handle. It's just heavily textured, so you're not going to lose your grip on it. Does have the lanyard hole, so you can add a lanyard onto here. And lanyards can come in handy, especially when you're out in the field and you need to get a hold of your knife fast. Or it can be used to help secure your knife to your wrist so that you don't lose the knife if you hit something extra hard and it jars out of your hand. Only problem with 36 is the blade is a little short, so you can sometimes end up hitting your fingers when you're trying to chop with it. Same family. This is the SCHF3. Same 1095 high carbon steel, same powder coating, just as thick, still full tang. This one's already got the lanyard on it. It's got a sawtooth serration here, so you can actually saw with this thing. I'm not going to be able to saw big things, but you can still saw with it. And this one is long enough that you're not going to be hitting your fingers when you try to chop something with it. And to make things even nicer with both of them, you've got a nice little pouch that you can put things in this one. Maybe you can drop a buck 110 in there. Or this one, shorter one. In this pouch, it comes with ferrule rod and diamond hone. Very handy. Sooner or later, any knife is going to get dull. So having the hone right there to help you sharpen it, not a bad deal. Other possible suggestions. This one is from Ontario. These are the people who are making most of the knives for the U.S. military now. And this one, the SP2, is pretty much an exact copy of the one they use for both Navy survival and Air Force survival. Big difference is that the Air Force survival that they actually issue has stacked leather for a handle, and this one is molded, but it's very grippy. Going to have troubles losing that. It's also got a place for lanyard. It's got a sawtooth back. This was actually originally designed to allow you to cut your way out of a airplane's fuselage or something like that. Some of them do come with serrations on the blade. There is an advantage to having a serrated knife for a survival knife or camping knife, and that is that if you don't have time to keep your knife as sharp as you should, the serrations will help cut so that the knife will actually act sharper than it is, and cut better than it otherwise would. They are a pain against some things, but for other things, let's face it, when I was working as a paramedic, almost all of my knives had serrations because I was cutting seat belts all the time. I had to cut ropes and the like all the time. A serrated edge is invaluable in that case. Nowadays, very few of my knives have serrations, but I'm not cutting seat belts anymore. So, you can even go as far as something like this. This is a Kershaw Camp 10. Now this is a big knife. Even Crocodile Dundee would give it credit. Nicest thing about this shaped blade, it's almost reminiscent of a kukri from Nepal. The handy thing about it is that heavy wide tip up top makes it forward heavy, so if you do need to use it for chopping, it's almost like swinging a hatchet or an axe. The very weight helps you do what you're trying to do. It's got a recurved belly, which does not always come in handy, but for out in the woods and like, especially when you're trained to use this almost like a machete to chop your way through thick brush, that recurve is actually going to pull things into the cutting edge, make it easier to cut through. In my wood shop, it does me absolutely no good. It actually gets in the way. But I'm not trying to chop through things in the wood shop. It's got a lanyard hole here and here. So you can put a lanyard wherever is comfortable for you. Heavy knife, but as I say, this is going to get the job done quickly and easily. And it's not that expensive. But you don't even have to go for anything I'm showing you. You can go down to, say, Walmart. Get a Mora. That's a Scandinavian-made knife. It's good quality. It'll do everything you need it to do. And you can probably get it for around $15. Maybe another one that you'll find at Walmart occasionally. Yeah, nothing wrong with this one. It's sold as a hunting knife, but it's got, again, rubberized handle so that it's comfortable, non-slip, even if you get wet. Again, vinyl sheath, so if it gets wet, it drains the water out quickly. This will do most of what you need. Again, $15-20. No problem at all. So, as you can see, there's a wide selection of knives, and I didn't even get into some of the really expensive ones, because, let's face it, if you're just learning about all this and are watching this video, as I said, you're not going to want to spend that much money on a knife to outfit a emergency kit or bug out bag. Now, as time goes on, if you start getting into camping and the outdoors, yeah, then you're going to definitely want to go to a better knife. Then the K-Bar Dros is going to become much more appealing, or the SE. I personally love the SE6, Model 6. There's just a huge selection of knives out there for you. But it is something you're going to want, believe me. As someone who's done a lot of camping before he got sick, and well, let's face it, I can't do too much hiking right now until I get my knee repaired, but I used to do a lot of camping. I'm going to be doing again. I do a lot of hunting. There is nothing out there in the field that's going to serve you as well as a good knife. So take your time. Find one that feels comfortable in your hand. If it doesn't feel comfortable in your hand, you're not going to be able to use it right. But you don't have to spend a ton of money. The only thing I will suggest is you might want to get 2 or 3. Because, let's face it, I don't care how good a knife is. Even that Schrade 36 that I showed you with the super thick spine and tang, even that thing can break. And a broken knife may as well not exist. So go ahead. Pick up a couple knives. Keep them in your pack. When you have time, go out and use them a little bit to get an idea of how they feel. pick up some firewood and chop into it maybe. Watch a few videos on how to sharpen the knife. Learn how to care for it. But in the end, it doesn't matter really. I'd rather have a crappy Chinese or Pakistani made $10 knife that barely holds an edge than no knife at all. But in the meantime, kind of gotta get going. For those of you who are interested, got a link up here to one or two of my newer videos on camp knives. Got a link down here to something I think we'll find interesting. Of course, we've got the subscription button over here as always. And I'll put a link down in the comment section to a playlist of camp knives of my various reviews and the like. Hopefully it'll help you out. Meantime, take care. We'll see you next week. Bye now.